Welcome everybody to the DomCast episode 57, and yeah, this is probably 24 hours after 56. Hate to do this, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. These are like the barbershop talk length podcasts. I told y'all that would happen sometimes. There are points where in the NBA, dramatic things happen. They happen quickly. And for me, it reaches the level of emergency content, an emergency pod. So that's what today is. Consider it just an emergency pod. If you listen to the free agency one already, or you're working, or the day one of free agency, and you're working your way through it, you notice probably that it's missing quite a few deals. And that's because we recorded that one at like, what, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And yeah, after I had to rush and post it on YouTube because I woke up and deals were just rapid firing. And I was like, all right, let me just go ahead and get this one up before it doesn't even make sense to upload it anymore. And I beat the buzzer because there were multiple trades that would have immediately had me ashamed to upload that in the form that it was in. So anyways, whatever. You get the point, right? Big shit happened. Here we are. We're back. Should be quick. If you enjoy the podcast, like, rate, all that good stuff. But like I said, this is like throwback. We'll get a couple of these during the summer that are just shorter in length because we have to cover deals sometimes. And the deals we are covering, let's start with the most interesting one. And I would say the most unexpected one, being that I don't really pay attention to Brian Windhorst. The Wolves acquire Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, who was their draft pick, I believe it was 22nd overall, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 first-round picks, and I believe they are unprotected, correct? Minnesota is sending unprotected 23, 25, and 27 picks and a top 5 protected 29 pick to Utah. If that is the price in picks for Rudy Gobert, I weep for the future of the team that is about to trade for Kevin Durant, because holy shite, I've been watching too much of the boys. I've had time to sit on this one. I did not jump on and react to it immediately as it happened. It's around 9 p.m. here, and this happened earlier in the day. So what are we thinking about this? First of all, Rudy Gobert, Timberwolves. That is not a place that I had ever in my head. Funny thing about this is when guys are imminent, and when a trade is imminent for a star level player, you normally see photoshops, you see all types of rumors, you see everything. The last thing that I remember hearing was Rudy Gobert was due to be traded to the Chicago Bulls, or they were looking for a way to make that happen. Even Nikola Vucevic made a tweet about how he's glad that he got turned down for his Salt Lake City house because he wasn't that deal didn't happen. And so I was thinking there, y'all know I've tossed the Mavericks around a couple of times. Kobe on the last pod was saying maybe the Hawks could get into it, and the Wolves did it. I didn't think of it because that just feels like a really random place. And then also, obviously, Cat playing center. He can play power forward, but he's been playing center, and it just didn't feel like in 2022, I didn't think a team was really jumping at the chance to put 2 actual big guys. These are 2 7-footers playing together now, correct? I'm pretty sure they're both 7 feet. It just didn't feel like that was the move, especially when one of them doesn't shoot. I didn't ever in my mind see that coming, and I was paying no attention to whatever Brian Windhorst was saying, but apparently he was the one that got this right. That's what I gathered from the memes that I saw. All right, basketball wise. Well, okay, let's start with what people are really wondering about. Was this worth it for the Wolves? And you never really know until you see it play out on a basketball court. However, the immediate reaction, people are looking at all these picks, and especially the fact that only one of them is top 5 protected and 29, the rest are unprotected. And that's on top of players, of course, Vando being a great defender, but a extremely limited offensive game as a wing player, which I felt was hurting some of their rotations. They held on to Jaden McDaniels, so that's a positive. I don't think anybody on the Wolves side cares about giving up Malik Beasley. Patrick Beverley is a travel man anyways. He'd already been doing rounds on the circuit in the media talking about Heat trade for me. He talked about playing for the Lakers, so Bev is just due to be traded every summer. And then Walker Kessler, who I will not even lie like I know much about him, but he hasn't played a day in the NBA yet. So we'll see. That does make sense for Utah and looking like they're going for a rebuild. Did Minnesota give up too much? That's a lot, man. When I was thinking of deals for Rudy Gobert and we knew that he was going to get traded, I knew he was no longer a Utah Jazz member, because even if they're picking one of those guys to build around in 2022, you just don't build around a player. You don't build around a player like Rudy Gobert. You just don't. You put him, like Minnesota's trying to do, on a team with other guys, and you go from there. I would say, okay, you have the Western Conference, right? You've got, let's just list off some teams. The Warriors just won the championship. They played the Mavericks, who I believe I like the McGee signing, but boy, that Jalen Brunson, having him walk, that hurts, and they've not yet replaced that. You go. The Mavericks played the Suns, so the Suns are still there. They're possibly trading for KD, but regardless, I believe Phoenix is going to be good next year. You got the Clippers that are coming back. You got the Nuggets about to don their best starting five. I've just named 5 teams already without even naming the Grizzlies, without even naming the team that has LeBron and AD and probably pretty soon to be Kyrie. So that's, let's just say, without anything else actually being important, off the top of my head, I just named 7 Western teams that seem like they are in position to get things together this offseason and play for something in the West next year. In my opinion, the state of the Western Conference right now is such that if you are not playing for something, you should be like the Spurs probably and just be playing for nothing. AKA, you should be really good right now in the West or really bad. It doesn't serve you a lot to just be playing in the middle. And it hurts to say that because the Wolves are building something nice. They should have been in the second round of the playoffs, in my opinion, last year, but they're building something nice. And I think that while this was a hefty price, okay, you run it back next year and you get an improved Anthony Edwards, a team that's had playoff experience, could have made some other smaller moves and retooled it. That wouldn't have moved them any closer to a championship, though. Not that Rudy Gobert makes them a championship team, but that doesn't move the needle if you're just making small moves. And if you're a team like the Wolves that's pretty much, let's just say, middle of the pack. Once again, don't forget how many injuries they had last year, and I am getting a phone call, so let me pause real quick. Okay, we're good. All I was saying was they had a lot of injuries last year that had them basically be a play-in team where I felt if they hadn't had those, they could have been a 5th seed, maybe 4th is pushing it, but 5th or 6th I could have definitely seen from Minnesota. So you're already in that middle of the pack of the West. I think that's what that roster was capable of. In this Western Conference, though, with 2 more teams coming back, do you kind of sit idle and say, oh, let's just develop it? Or do you swing for the fences while you can, while you have this? Because Cat has been around for a while now. What was he drafted? He was drafted in 2015, right? He's been around for a while, and I'm getting the sense that, and not that he can't improve, but in some respects, he just kind of seems as if he is who he is in terms of some of the mistakes we saw him make in the playoffs. A lot of the things that we talked about while that playoff series was going on, just kind of feel like that's Cat. And I was about to say the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan once said. Yeah, and is crazy potential. I have very, very high hopes for him. I have MVP hopes for him, so that's cool. Now you put Rudy Gobert there, and the bulk of what you paid here is picks that, with this core, you're hoping you don't really need, in my opinion. So what are we looking at right now? So we know Ant just got drafted. His age is kind of irrelevant to this discussion. You look at Karl Towns and his age. What are we looking at? Just signed an extension. He is 26 years old. And yes, that was an extension we didn't get to discuss. He did sign, so he's there for a while. He's locked up. Now you've got Rudy Gobert here. He's 30, so a little bit on the older side, but nonetheless, he's probably still got like 3 or 4 years left as the defender that he is. So that puts you at 26. And you're hoping, like, if you can keep on adding to what this team is, you probably don't necessarily need those. That's the hope anyway. So you really got to make something shake. This was a go for it move. And while it's expensive for the rotation guys, the only thing that's extra important I think you lost here was Jared Vanderbilt, I would say. And I know that may feel like it's overlooking Patrick Beverley, but Bev did his job to me. He came in 1 year, gave this team an identity. He probably helped him as a veteran guy in that attitude. He probably helped him, but I don't necessarily. If you can put him in a deal like this, he's not untouchable. Obviously, they felt the same way. So Vando is really the only player I would say you've lost where you're kind of hurting. Malik Beasley, you ain't know what you was gonna get from him as far as 3-point shooting on a night-to-night basis. I had a fun time following Wolves Twitter talking about Malik Beasley this year. So I like it. I like it. That's all I'm saying, though. I didn't say I love it. I didn't say it's great. I didn't say the Wolves are going to the finals. I just said for where this Wolves team is, I like it. But it's a big risk. And again, in this Western Conference, it being where the Wolves are, you probably just need to be thinking. You need to have risk-based thinking. So obviously, what everyone goes to here immediately, there's 2 things. One is the Gobert and Cat fit, but the other part is, oh, hey, how does you just paid all this for a guy who gets played off the floor in the playoffs? And I'm hoping that listeners of this podcast have heard me rant enough about the guys that Gobert was playing with and the role that they played in getting him basically just tortured in playoff games over the last 2 years. I'm hoping we don't have to go through that. They were turnstiles. Utah Jazz as a whole had guys as defenders that were turnstiles and put Rudy in a very bad position. So yes, part of it is his slow feet and being able to stay with guards like a modern big man. That's part of it, but also playing with guys that aren't just going to get blown by every play. If you can do that, that's a significant thing, because now he can just be the backbone of the defense like he needs to be. He doesn't have to deal with Jalen Brunson running at him every single play or rotating to a three-point shot in the corner every single play. Maybe that doesn't happen on this Wolves roster, and I'm gonna guess they're probably not done, so we'll see what else they end up adding. So that's how I feel about that. That's one reason I wanted to see the Jazz just blow this all up anyways, because that was just one too many players they had to replace to make the way they played defense. It was just a little too much and not really worth it to build around D Mitch and Gobert, especially when it didn't really feel like they wanted to be together anymore. So good on them for that. Okay, what about the Cat and Gobert fit in today's league? Well, it is interesting because obviously if you're gonna win the West right now, at the top of it is the Warriors, and we just saw Golden State win a series in 6 in which they were playing a team that liked to play two bigs, one of them that could shoot and one of them that couldn't. Not obviously not to this degree. This is to an all-star degree, but just in general, with how much teams run PNR these days, you are wondering what happens in a series where Steph Curry is dragging both of them out, and you have the same exact problem that Boston just had in terms of, we don't have many good options here. That does get interesting. So defensively, just guarding actions that happen around the perimeter, I do want to see what that ends up looking like. So the initial action, I'm not talking about Gobert rotating and having to make the run from the paint to the corner over and over again. I'm talking about just standard PNR. It is interesting. However, as far as a fit, I am kind of glad to see Cat shift to the 4 here. I think that's what he's wanted. He's been playing center. He likes to shoot a hell of a lot. He doesn't like to bang down low a lot. He doesn't like to post up. He's not like the greatest post up guy. Cat is about as modern of a 4 in terms of offensive play style as you can find. And so you move him there and you have Gobert at the 5. Obviously, the posting up that Cat didn't even want to do in the first place is probably really not going to happen now, because that'll be harder than it was. So it's not like Cat was so much of a 5 that it didn't make sense to get another one. Now you have a standard lob catcher, so that's a roll threat, and Gobert. People always laugh when you talk about Gobert and roll gravity, but it is a thing. Defensive rebounding, and Cat can just go be a 4. He can be an actual 4. I'm wondering if some of the high-low action you might get between those two. But the reason I'm starting to slow down here is now my mind is going back to when Utah tried to include Gobert and a lot of those. When I was just talking about the roll gravity and lob threat, Gobert couldn't. It was like one game against the Mavs or 1 or 2 games against the Mavs where Utah was like, all right, you know what, you're up, Gobert. We're gonna try to get you involved, and he couldn't catch the ball at all. So that part, I don't know, actually. The fit is interesting. However, once again, it's just, if you would listen to the last podcast where we talked about the DeJounte Murray and Trae Young fit, it kind of feels like that, where, hey, you know what, let's get that and figure it out. Because in the West, you're either gunning for the best right now or you're falling way behind into no man's land for a long time. Because these are a lot of young, good teams, or a dynasty like Golden State, which, by the way, has let a couple of guys go. We're going to get to that in a minute. You just don't want to be stuck, man. The Spurs didn't want to be stuck. They didn't see a path towards building, so they let it all go. I'll be talking about the Kings in a minute. The Pelicans have a crazy young core right now, and they're going to be able to compete in the West for years to come. They didn't have to do anything drastic, although I've heard they picked up the phone about KD, but at this point, who hasn't? Hell, even the Blazers are making moves, which, again, more deals that we didn't get to discuss yesterday. That kind of happened a little bit later. Or I think I might have just forgotten the Gary Payton one. But they've gotten Jeremy Grant. They've got Payton. They got the guy they drafted. Hell, I know they're picking up the phone about KD. I don't know how they'd make that happen, but you see what I mean? So I like the go for it mentality here. I am definitely going to be interested to see how that does work on offense. Rudy Gobert will have to be capable of catching lobs to maximize it, because I can definitely see some situations where Cat creates that like two man in the middle opportunity, and you get some opportunities for lobs there. I could really see some potential in that if Gobert can catch it and dunk it, specifically in the playoffs. Okay, that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. That's generally the thoughts. Oh, lastly, Utah. So from Utah's perspective, I would say that it's time to rebuild. You just got 5 picks. Is it 1, 2, 3? So you got 4 picks. And yeah, so 4 first round picks in these players. You got a young guy out of it. You got actually 2 young guys out of it. And the first report we heard after that 20 minutes later is, oh, Utah's plan is to build around Donovan Mitchell. I get the feeling they're going to send them both. This team is not, it gave the same vibes as Portland saying, oh no, we're just going to build around Damian Lillard. They're doing nice things, and I just gave them their props, but unless they land Kevin Durant, I don't think they're really going to, I don't think Portland has necessarily moved the needle, and thus they're kind of still going to be stuck. Inevitably, they're still going to be stuck in mediocrity. It's not going to go that much further than it did when they had CJ McCollum. And so I kind of feel like that with Utah, this is a restart package, which you just got Gobert for. You didn't go and get guys that are going to help Donovan Mitchell win now. I mean, it does help to have a defender next to him and Vando. That's cool. But once again, how much is he going to expand his offensive game? This is still not really a win now package. I would be surprised if Patrick Beverley ended up playing for Utah. He even tweeted out something about his tweet about this trade seemed like general. The first one I saw anyways, maybe he's tweeted out love to Utah so far, but the first one, it kind of looked like he might end up somewhere else, and Utah was not one of the places he named this summer when he was speaking about where he wanted to go. Anyways, my point is, this just feels like a restart. And if you're Utah and you got these picks, so why not just go ahead and do the same thing with Donovan Mitchell and do what the Spurs did, man? Just blow it all the way up, because Donovan Mitchell might not be the #1 on a championship team. He might be a 2, but he might not be a 1. And if he is a 1, y'all are terribly far away from building that in this Western Conference. Now, he has a long time on his contract, but it also feels, everything we hear about Donovan Mitchell, and he doesn't fight back against this, everything we hear is that he wants to be somewhere else. And he does nothing to fight back against it. So I just feel like this is a restart package, and they should go all the way with it. That's what I got for Utah. And yeah, either way, the Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell pairing is over. After years of them, they got Mike Conley, and then they were a dark horse, and then we saw them. They were dark horse in 2020, then they blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Then you go to 2021, and you don't beat the Clippers without PG. That's where we really learned that, hey, this Gobert thing is a really, really big problem on this specific roster. And that same exact thing happens again. That's where you get my videos on the main channel poking fun at them. I've told y'all there was no reason for them to play a single game together anymore. That's the mark of death, and I'm not taking credit for it. I say it at pretty obvious times, but when Ben Simmons and Embiid played their last game together, I said that night they should never play a game together again. Same thing with Mitchell and Gobert. I, on this podcast, am marking stamps of deaths on duos. When I put that sticker on there, look for the trade. It's happening. It should be obvious at that point. That's when you know it's over. You can always see the signs. All right. So Wolves and Gobert, again, very random. I've seen exactly 1 jersey swap of Gobert and a Wolves jersey. How about them Celtics? I do not have my desk. You know what? I don't even want to play a sound effect. You remember when this podcast, it was a little bit early and I was playing sound effects? I stopped because I was getting copyrighted. That's what YouTube is like. Anyways, how about them boys? So Boston picks up Danilo Gallinari, who we knew was not going to play for the San Antonio Spurs. They went ahead and dropped him, let him find another team. He found the Boston Celtics, or we found him. One way or another, they got a shooter. They got a guy that on this Celtics roster will probably be able to create as much as you need a bench player to create. You don't need him to do a whole lot. So I love that pickup. That's extra points. And the big one, Malcolm Brogdon. It happened. So the deal, Celtics get Malcolm Brogdon for the Pacers for a 2023 first round pick, Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and also a lot of players. I think Juwan Morgan, Nick Stauskas, I think it was one more guy. Either way, everyone who didn't play for Boston, everyone at the edge of the bench who did not play, they got Malcolm Brogdon. Now, immediately, I know you're going to throw his injury report in my face. I'm here to tell you, I acknowledge that. That is definitely a valid concern, especially in Boston where everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yes, that's a worry. All right. But let me have this, because I just spent the last 2, 3, 4 weeks doing a tour on the NBA Twitch channel, on multiple podcasts. The Impact Show, I did his podcast. The Brado and Will Show, the Rockets guys, I did their podcast. I might have done a third, I'm forgetting. And they all asked me about the Celtics. Sorry, Wordu. Yeah, I did one with Wordu, but that's not out yet. And every time they asked me what we needed, I said, they've got to find a point guard out there. I was thinking John Wall, but I was on the side. I told y'all the Celtics fandom was kind of split on what to do this offseason and what they needed. And certain people were getting mad because we were saying, oh, we should probably have a point guard that's an actual point guard. Because while Smart is trying to grow into the role, he's not an actual point guard. They need an actual one. They got that in Malcolm Brogdon. And I didn't know where it was going to come from. I forgot that Brogdon was available. They didn't want to run the thing that the Kings just did with Halliburton, where they had Fox and Halliburton and were pretending that both of them aren't ones. They didn't want to do that. Brogdon and Halliburton, both ones. Yeah, I went to a Magic game and I watched it's just random stretches in the game. Hallie would just be sitting in the corner. I'm like, bro, he does his best work with the ball. Just don't pretend this is going to go anywhere. Trade him. Brogdon is out. And we got him. And I forgot that the Pacers would be looking to do that. Now, I also didn't think the price would be basically nothing. And so maybe that's part of the reason he wasn't on my radar. Because I would always qualify the statement about us needing a playmaker. The last thing I would say was, I don't know how it's going to happen without giving up something. It just always felt like you needed to give up. To move the needle, you would have to end up giving up a Marcus Smart. That's what I thought, because I just didn't know who was available out there. Aside from John Wall, it did not seem available in free agency. I know Patty Mills, he resigned with the Nets anyway, so it don't even matter. And so, yeah, I didn't think we were just going to be able to throw them a pick and a lot of guys who don't matter on this roster and get exactly what we needed. So in one day to get Gallinari, and I believe they're looking for Thomas Bryant from the Wizards. I think that's something that they're looking at, but also he just changed his profile picture. There's something to do with the Lakers, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Who knows? They still have roster spots to fill out, but I am pleased with this, man. I am pleased. We needed a bench guy, probably need another one, but you needed something on the bench. And you absolutely needed this option when the game goes out of whack and you're looking at Tatum to do everything and you're looking at Brown to do everything with the ball because Marcus Smart is shooting threes or whatever. You absolutely needed a point guard like Brogdon to come in and calm things down and just be a point guard. At very crucial moments in playoff games, that became an issue and they addressed it. Shout out Brad Stevens, the actual godfather. Let me stop. Let me not disrespect Pat Riley, although the Heat haven't done anything yet. I'm big on this move, man. I am big on this move. I am satisfied. That's all I really have to say about it. I think every podcast that Boston has been brought up, I probably mentioned the need for a point guard. There you go. Done deal. Don't need to do anything else this offseason except get like one more guy. Cool. We'll see what happens. Aside from that, yes, the Warriors, our arch enemy for the next year. Interesting, man. So they signed Donte DiVincenzo, but immediately 24 hours past in free agency, they let Gary Payton go and Otto Porter. They didn't want to pay Gary Payton, which, interesting, go find the quote where Steph Curry, they talked about how Gary Payton would guard him in practice, and Steph told Bob Myers, like, hey, don't let this man end up on another team and make me have to actually deal with this. So they did that. And Otto Porter, once again, I thought his spacing was important. Don't know his exact numbers, but he hit some very important threes in this series. And at times when Steve Kerr said, all right, we need to switch things up, he was important to that lineup versatility. Yeah, losing both of them within 24 hours and getting Donte DiVincenzo back, I want to see what else the Warriors have in the bag, because I was under the impression they were just going to run it back. They're going to pay whatever they had to pay to run it back and add James Wiseman on top of this, or deal him for whatever else you needed. I thought they were, I didn't think those two guys were just going to walk. And so that's a sad day. We'll see what they replaced him with. I don't know how, I'm not sure what Donte DiVincenzo is really going to bring. No, Bellinelli is also gone. He went overseas. He won his championship. Did I say Bellinelli? Sorry. Bielitsa went overseas. He's gone. Although he wasn't that important by the time the season got to the most crucial parts. He wasn't that important. So, but yeah, so 3 guys are gone now. Very interesting for Golden State. Let's keep an eye on what else they do. How about Zion Williamson agreeing to a 5-year, $231 million extension? So without having hardly played, he gets this. I think that there are not incentives. That's not the word I'm looking for. I think there's conditions in the contract that kind of protect the Pelicans. I believe that's what I've heard. Either way, Zion said he couldn't sign that fast enough a couple of months ago. Of course, he's been hurt. He proved himself when he played, but it's so little. So yeah, of course he couldn't wait to jump on 230 mil because you don't know if he's going to get injured again. But yeah, Pelicans rightfully locked him up. I'm glad we don't have to deal with all the trade rumors because it's already one thing we're dealing with Kevin Durant on a 4-year contract, basically forcing his way out of Brooklyn. Would hate to have had this whole thing happen with Zion actually turn into a situation where he played barely one season and got his way out before he was ever even a restricted free agent. Glad we cleared that up. So yeah, great stuff for the Pelicans. Let me know if y'all know anyone who knows the Pelicans well, because I am very high on them and I would love to have whoever that is on the podcast at some point. The other important ones here would be, Ricky Rubio back to Cleveland, by the way. That's awesome. That was another guy that I was maybe looking at for Boston. I'll take Brogdon. The Kings got Kevin Huerter for Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a future first-round pick. I actually like what the Kings are doing so far, bro. The Kings signed Malik Monk, and then they got Kevin Huerter here. You got Keegan Murray. I'm interested to see what that does to Harrison Barnes on the roster. Is he now expendable? Are they going full-on young? Sabonis is there. Again, the Sabonis was a go-for-it move. Getting Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, or not go forward in terms of like they're nowhere near a championship, but it would go forward in terms of back of the playoffs. They tried that way early last year, and these signings here, these trades, they're trying to be competitive. The Kings are legitimately trying to be competitive. I'm interested in what their defense is going to be like this year, but they are trying to put together an actual competitive roster. So. That's cool. Bruce Brown to the Nuggets. That is awesome. It's apparently they're not bringing Cousins back. Obviously, Bruce Brown is not a big man. I'm just saying this kind of makes up for the DeAndre Jordan thing. Does it? I don't really know, but okay, that's cool. And yeah, that's about it. Zach LaVine, we already knew he was going back to the Bulls. I told y'all that. Kevon Looney returned to the Warriors. Yeah, that pretty much covers a lot of what we missed yesterday. And there's a lot of other smaller deals, but I don't think I really need to read through all those. All right, well, I'm done here. Main thing for this video was Wolves and Celtics, and I just wanted to mention these other deals. I think we probably clocked in at 25-30 minutes today, so not quite barbershop talk length, but I wanted to make sure I got everything I had to say out. So let me know what you think about these trades and these fits in the comment section. Did I need to go over the Brogdon thing? From the Pacers perspective, not really. Tanking team, didn't need to have, let Hadley develop. Just basic stuff there. Okay, yeah. Like button, rating with the stars on Spotify, all that good stuff. I appreciate y'all. I will see y'all hopefully not tomorrow or the day after, because that means yet another trade happened and I couldn't let these pods breathe.